Yeah, welcome back to today's class. And yeah, we'll be starting from where we stopped in the previous class. And in today's class, we'll be able to create our own post, do a post notification, and also delete a post, which is like I call it a crude method of working with API. So we'll be able to delete, which is delete. We have been able to read. Everything we have done previously is reading from an API. And I think in the previous class, I gave you a task to work on the update. So, and some of you did it, some of you did it, and yeah, we would continue from here in today's class. Okay, so Angela, kindly mute yourself, please. So we would continue from there in today's class, and the first thing we're working with is creating our post. And as you can see, we have selected our post button from our HTML in the previous class, which is what we have. So I'm just going to create a function const create post, const create post. It's going to be this, and yeah, we are going to have our const title equals post title dot value dot trim. So this dot trim is we are ensuring that we don't have like empty space, because every space is also a character in when you're typing in an element. So if there's no text and you're typing in your characters, and once you click on enter and it sees that there is no actual alphabet, it seems, as you can see, there is like a pop-up: remove the leading and tailing white spaces and line terminators character from a string. So if there is, like, before you write your first character and there's like a space, it has to remove all the first letter spacing. It has to remove sorry, thank you very much. Area value, sorry. So it's simply going to remove all the white spacing, like audio space. White space can also be referred to as space. It's going to remove audio space before your first letter. That's simply what that's going to do. We're also going to do it for the post body. Post body equals post body dot value dot trim. So that is what we have. And we'll have like an if statement. If there is no title, tell E there is no title, or a body, or there is no body. So we'll simply throw an error saying show notification. Let me quickly build our show notification icon right here. So it's not supposed to be here. Control Z. So let me do that outside here. Const show notification. Notification. You are going to pass in a message and a message. We also have a type of, we have like a default type of info. So that's what we have. I have an error here. I should have added a equal to right here. So this is going to be our post notification, which we are going to work with. So we would have notification, show notification, and we would have a message, which is please fill in both title and body content. And we'll throw a parameter of error. So this is going to be an error field. So when we are building the notification function, we would actually define those classes. There. So let's continue. Please, am I making sense, or you are confused? Return. So we're just going to return that. So this is actually going to be something you will do all the time when you're making use of an endpoint. So when you're doing a post request, this is like a post request that we are doing, but we are not sending it to a database per se. So we have const new post equals is going to be an object because we are sending various things. ID equals user post counter, So we have user post counter, which is what we have up here. We have defined that up here before. So we're just going to increment it. User post counter equals plus plus. So it's going to give us user post. So any post we create is going to have an ID of 1002, 1003, like that. That's simply, I think you can remember that from what we had when we're working with basic arithmetic operators in JavaScript. So the next one we have our title, so which is going to be title. We have our body, which is going to be body. Would have our user ID. So this is just going to be coded into it. So we just have one. The next one we have is a date. So we want to input a date into it. So have new date to local date string, and we'll be using, in Nigeria here, we are making use of the Nigerian US time format, US English language time format. So that's why we are going to input the English US. So in Nigeria, we make use of English-US. And what do we want to render? We want the year, simply like what we did up here. I think that in our get post, Yeah, simply what we have here, right here. That's also what we are replicating down here. So we have the year in numeric. So I just have to use my AI tool to do that, to just auto-complete that. So, and next one we just have our read time. So it's going to be math.cu body.split. So this is just like, okay, how long is it going to take for you to be able to read this, to read the post we are writing? So we have like a quote inside, and we have dot length divided by 200. So this is simply going to calculate our read time for us. And we have this is user post. So as you can see, when we had this is user post, I have to have a comma here. When we had this is user post in our when we're getting the function, we wrote it as false. But now, since we are the one that is creating the post, we are going to put it as true. So it's going to be our own post. So what's the next thing we are simply going to do is we are going to use an array. We are going to update our array using all posts dot on shift equals new post. Equals new post, and we are updating it with this new post that we have right here. We're updating it with this new post we have right here, and we go into showing our post notification. We're now going to show our post notification also. Show notification that this will now have posts successfully created And I want you to know something. Some of all these your error messages and post messages, you are not going to be the one that is going to add code it from the front end. You won't be the one to add code it from the front end, basically. You would actually have, like when you're working with your backend developers, they will send you the error message. Okay, let me now ask the question. How many one of you actually went to go and read up on error messages? Those status code I told you, I mentioned in the last class. How many people went to read up about it? How many people? So nobody read up about the status code in JavaScript. It's very important for you to know different kind of status code because it will help you a lot to kind of know which status code what your backend developer is throwing at any particular time. Because if you don't know the kind of status code your backend developer is throwing, you would get confused at a certain point in time. Probably they are throwing a particular kind of error, and when they are throwing that kind of error, you're like, what error is this? So I think that's going to be your task to the next stage. I think that's simply going to be part of your task. It's simply going to be part of your task. I think nobody went to read it, so if I include it in your task, all of you will be forced to read it. So yeah, all of you will be forced to go and make research about it. I think I have an article about it, but I didn't remember to post the links. But you guys can, it's always something you can just search on the internet and you would see the various status code that we have. And I also mentioned some in the previous class. So we have success. So now let's now do something. So const submit btn. So we have like our submit btn button. We have our submit btn button. So we are calling our submit btn button from our JavaScript, which we have our submit btn button, which is going to be equals post form. Sorry, can you guys hear me? Let me be sure. Can you guys hear me? Hello?
Yes, sir. I hear you.
Oh, okay. Let me just be sure I am communicating. So we have post form dot query selector. That's going to be button, and we have the type of, this is also another way to select button in JavaScript, and we have the type of submit. Submit. Why am I having an error like this? So we have button type, we have this. So let me do this. Button type of submit. Submit. What's going on? I'm having an unexpected error. I'm trying to see why I'm having an error. Let me be sure. Coming. No JavaScript, yeah. So the reason why I'm having that error is because I'm actually using a single quotation outside here, and I need to have like, if you're using a single quotation outside, if you're then when you come inside to do something like this, you need like a double quote so that it can understand that you are not terminating the application the so you can understand that you're not terminating the function at that particular point in time. So let's continue. We have const original text equals submit btn dot inner html. Then we have submit btn dot inner HTML, which is equals, we'll have an I class, sorry, we have I class, so we are inputting an icon from here, which is going to be class of equals FAS FA dash check, and we have MR dash 2. So let me conclude this and close my. So we have this and we close it up. So and I'm sure I didn't make a mistake, and we have published. So this is submit inner HTML, and yes. So let's continue. So we have submit btn dot class list dot add. We have a bg. We have a bg dash green. You can see one of the major reasons I like using Tailwind CSS is because I don't have to be switching between two. I don't have to start switching between two files. I know the styles I want to use, and I just write it straight up instead of me having to define it in an external CSS. Then now coming to define it in a, now trying to look for the class all around again. It's kind of double work. And I know recently I was conversing with a senior engineer, and he was like, Tailwind is actually killing people. It's actually like taking off the spark of knowing raw CSS. And I told him I beg to differ on that simply because people are making use of Tailwind. If someone does not understand the core fundamentals of vanilla CSS, as we will call it, someone cannot use Tailwind effectively, because it's just that Tailwind is built on the foundation of vanilla CSS. If you don't know Flexbox, you wouldn't know how to use Flex in Tailwind CSS, because you will just have to read. Though the documentation is going to help you, but you will need to have like a solid foundation for it to be able to use it very well. So that's why every framework you'll be using, it does not invalidate that you still have to know the basic, you still have to know the foundational knowledge of it. So don't be carried away saying that, oh, I know a framework, but if you don't understand the basics of that framework, you would be swept under your feet, because the basics of it is, knowing the basics is what help you grow faster, regardless of how the main technology can be switched or anything. You can still make use of, so far you know the foundation, you can always make use of it over and over and over again. So that's just it. So let's continue. So we have set timeout function. So we are going to set a timeout function so that our notification can just time out in some seconds. So we have this, and we would do submit btn dot. So we want our this thing, our you are not going to use a timeout function when you're working with your API, simply because it's going to be the API that is going to determine when probably you have sent the data to the backend, and after it has completed, based on the status code, that is what you would use to terminate your error, to know that, okay, is this thing successful? Is this successful? If it's successful, you terminate it, and if it's not successful, you just have to throw an error message. So that is what we are doing with this set timeout function. So don't think that, oh, when you are working with an API from an original backend, like a backend developer develops an API for you, you will now have to be setting a timeout function, in the sense that you want, okay, let me set the timeout myself. No, it's your loading state. You are going to simply use a loading state to determine, okay, this when this is done, it should show a particular thing. So that's what you are going to do. You're going to use the loading stage. You're going to use like, okay, when you're here to get like a 200, if you're creating a post, it's going to be a 201 success message. If it's not yet a 201 success message, it still has to keep loading. So that's just it. Original text. And we have submit btn dot class list dot remove, and we are going to remove the background color that we added to it. bg grain 500. So this is simply what we have done. Let's check. It should work, but our set timer, let's check if we don't have any error in our console. Probably we are defining a class that will probably throw an error later. So we don't have any error. So let's see. So let's just add a random text here and post it. So this wouldn't work yet because we have not added it to our render function. So, but let's continue. Yes, we have not added it to our render function yet. So we are still going to add some things to our render post function to be able to update. We are going to add something to our render post function to be able to update what we have previously. So that's where we are going to do that. So let's continue. So, oh, sorry, I'm supposed to do something here. So this is what is going to call the create post function. So let's try that out. I was missing that already. So I didn't know I've not called the function yet. And this should work somewhat. Or let's console.log what we have. Let's do a console.log. Let's do a console.log right here. Console.log form submitted to be sure this is working. So let's have this. Okay, form submitted is actually working. So let's finish up and see why. Okay, we are skipping some things, which is we are supposed to render. We're actually supposed to render our post form. So we are going to have a post form dot reset. So that means once we have actually hit the submit button, we should actually clear the field. And we also have render posts. We have to call the render post function right here. So let me see, I actually missed that. So let's see if it's going to work now. Just writing some random text, and so you can see, yes, it's actually working. So you can see that we add this and it's actually giving us what we typed into it. So if we have like, let me go to just, I don't have like a blog post that I have written. So let me just write save online. And we have, let's say we have this article is safe to be read by any age group as it doesn't have any illicit, it does not have any illicit. Sorry, who can give me the spelling of illicit? It's running across my head at this point. Illicit. Okay, I've gotten it. Does not have any illicit. It is not Allen. It's not I. It sounds like I, but it's E. Illicit content. So let's post that and see. So you can see we have it's right here. So you can see it's also carrying your posts because that is what. So now with this, now we can actually now delete any post that we have, and we would work with that. So before we do that, let's now work on the post notification. Sorry, just a second, please. I want to, yeah, just a second, please. I want to, so we are going to work on the show post notification now. And after showing the post notification, we would work with the delete. So the delete will be able to update our post from saying, okay, is this, would be able to know which action we are carrying out based on what we have, based on what we have, based on what we have, the condition we have written. Yeah, so let's continue. Yeah, so now we are going to work on the delete. We are going to work on the show post notification. So let's now work on the show post notification. So let's work on the show post notification now. And yeah, so we have message, we have const, notification equals documents dot create element. So you can know that you can actually create element from your JavaScript. So you can insert a div into, can insert an element into your JavaScript into your HTML from your JavaScript, basically. So let's continue. So I have notification dot class name equals fixed, and we have top dash 4, so it's going to be at the top right corner, right dash 4, and we have z dash 50, and we have a p dash 4. So we have also a rounded dash lg. This is like a rounded corner, and we have like a shadow dash lg, and we have like a max dash width dash sm. We have a transform translate. This is like a this is like an animation we are simply adding. So sorry guys, I need to mute my mic for like a few minutes, please. Yeah, so let's continue working on the show notification endpoint. So I said endpoint, sorry. I just mentioned endpoint in my meeting, so that's why endpoints came to my mind. So we have translate dash x dash full, which is, we have, I'm coming, we have transition dash transform duration as 300, that's 3 seconds, and we have this. So we have type equals success, We have bg-green -500. Then we have x-white. So we have type equals error. We have bg-red. So we have bg-red. I know I'm coming. bg-red, and we have -500 x-white. And yeah, so let's have our default one. So we're going to have bg- sorry, my tool has actually completed it. That's bg blue, so the background is going to be blue and the text is going to be white. So we are done with that. So let's continue. So we would have notification dot inner HTML equals. So let's continue. So we have div, we have a class, we have flex, items center, space -x-2. So we have we have class of FE, we have if is a success, we would have like a check marks. Sorry, I said check marks. That's also a product I'm working on, which just slipped into my mouth. So we have success. If it's success, we would have a FA dash check dash cycle. So if it's not success, if it's type equals error, we would have FA dash exclamation circle, exclamation dash cycle, exclamation cycle, and we have FE dash info dash cycle. So we are done with this. Close it up. Icon. So, and we have like a span. Have a span to impute our message. We have a span to impute our message. So the message you are getting from here, we are just going to impute it right here. So the message that we passed in right here, all these messages that we passed in right here, that is simply what we'll be passing down there. So we have document dot body dot append child That's notification. So this is this notification we are going to be appending. So now we now have to set a timeout. That's okay. Once it has shown, we have to it has to show for like some few seconds. Then we'll take it out. So we have set timeout, set time out equals, and we have notification dot style dot transform equals translate so, and would have like a timeout of 100. So that's 1 second. So after 1 second, it will time out after 1 second. So this is going to actually trigger our timeout. So this is going to be to remove and the next one we are now going to add is to remove the post notification, the notification after 3 seconds. So we set timeout, which is going to be we have notification dot style dot transform translate x that's 100%. So we would have set timeout. Sorry, this should be in small letter, not capital letter. Set timeout. That's document dot body dot remove child notification. So we have a 300. So down here we have like a 3000 seconds. So that's 3 seconds. Sorry guys, I need to mute my mic a bit. Yeah, so I think we are done with the show post notification, and let's now try it out and see. Let's just try it out and see if our post notification is working. So let's try this. And let me close our console in case we don't have an error. So as you can see, we simply just added the notification up. So let's try that again. And as you can see, this is simply going to just pop up your post successfully created, and that's simply the message we imputed right there. So if the post created successfully, and that's what we have imputed right there. And I think with this, we are basically done with the application. So, and we would now also have to implement our delete function. And funny thing is, the delete function is not a very, delete function is just one thing. And how are we going to delete our application? And sorry, I said how are we going to delete our application? How are we going to delete any post that we have on our platform? We will be using the ID. So that's why we actually created the ID right there. So we would have const, we'll have const delete posts equals, we'll have posts, we would have ID, we'll have ID, if confirm, that's going to be, sorry, are you sure? Are you sure you want to delete this post? So we have all posts equals all post dot filter, that's going to be post, that's post dot ID, that's equals ID. So this is simply the function that we are going to use to delete our function. So we have render post. So after that post has been deleted, but in some cases you won't have to do this, because when you're trying to delete a post originally from a backend, what you're simply going to use is you're just going to pass the ID into the URL. I would see if I can get, I would see if I can actually get an actual endpoint, because all the endpoints I'm actually working with are actually live endpoints. And I don't want something that I would actually just delete something and my other colleagues might be working on something, and once I delete it, it triggers your application to go down. So that's how careful you can be. But I don't think that's going to happen. But I might not say by Wednesday, but by our next, maybe before next week, our Monday's class, yeah, I would look for an actual endpoint that we can use to perform this whole code operation, from creating to deleting to creating, deleting, updating, and the like. So we are going to actually work around that over and over again, so you can see how it's done in a real world life project. So let's now have show notification. So we have post successfully deleted and we have a success. So let's leave that and see what we have. So one thing you should know is that this our application, once you refresh the page, what you have done previously goes away. So we don't have like a storage system, and it's one thing you should know. So I think in the next class, one thing I'm actually going to implement is implementing something called like a local storage, where we can use like we can use as our temporary database. Because I'm not a backend developer, I can't say I can in few days. So in the next class, we'll be looking at something called local storage. So we'll be able to save some of any posts that we create ourselves, we'll be able to save them in our local storage so that it can persist. So it can actually persist that, oh, for this, so even if we reload the page, the data is still going to play. But now, if any data we create, and if we reload the page, data goes away. But with local storage, you have like a temporary database, which even if you have access to the site later on in the future, you can still, if you don't delete those data, you can still have it there. So in the next class, we'll be looking at local storage, where we can save our data in the local storage and make use of it. So let's just do this and see if our delete post is actually working. So let's delete this post and see. It's telling us, are you sure you want to delete this post? And if we say okay, it's saying post successfully deleted. And that is simply all about the application itself. And I don't know if you have any question. And before going, let me just push it to GitHub. Let me push it to GitHub right away so that you guys can have like, you can go through it. working with API. So let's make it public. So let's do a git in it. So we can actually have access to it and also look at it one after the other and try to understand each code. So I actually made it that each line of code, you from the name of the function, you would know what each of the functions are doing. So you don't have to start saying, okay, this is also like a very good way of writing your code, so that even if someone else is coming to your code base, they can actually understand what you are doing. So that's just like a right structure of writing your code. Git init, git add dot, git commit dash m. I would add final work. So let me check. So like I told you, I don't always cram the this thing. I don't always cram the command line. I still go back to the command line to copy all those things and just paste it. So it saves you like a lot of stress. So let me push. So let's do a push, and with this, it's all live on. Yeah. So it's all live, and we are practically done with the application in itself. And if I refresh my GitHub, you will definitely see that it is all there. So I've not hosted it yet. So you can see I have more JavaScript than my HTML. So do we have any question? Is the application quite straightforward, and you can always go through it over and over again and see at any point you have an issue, you can always raise it. Any part that is not clear, if you have any question, you can actually just reach out to me. Do you have any question? Let me ask. Do we have any question? So I don't just assume. Do we have any question? Daniel, Cecilia, Allen, Patrick, Demitokwe, Kenneth. Do we have any question?
Godfather, everything is confusing.
Everything is confusing. Don't be confused. That's like I've always said, don't be confused. Just take a step back, watch the video over again, and don't just watch the video. Actually code along. So with you coding along, you would actually have a very good understanding of it. If you are coding along, you definitely have a good understanding of it. So that's actually it. So I think I'm supposed to even do something for you guys. I'm supposed to just have like a starter file and a finish file. So let me do that. So let's simply do something. So we know in our starter file, it's just going to be HTML and CSS that's going to be there. So let me check. So let me do starter file. So let's have a folder, call it starter folder, starter, and let's have something here called final. So in our starter folder, in our starter folder, I'm just going to copy this and paste it into our starter. So in our starter folder, you have just HTML inside there. So your JavaScript file is going to be inside your starter folder also. So it's going to work perfectly well. So if we check that out, if we refresh it, so let's try that out. Let me go back to our JavaScript right here. So JavaScript, this is supposed to be in our, let me copy this, copy and put it in our final. Let me paste here also. So for our starter file, we don't have our JavaScript there. It's going to be in our final that we have our JavaScript. So if we come to our index.html here, and we go to Wait, let's stop this and let's go live again. So yeah, you don't have anything. So if you check, if you have to clone the file, the first thing you have to, so that you can be able to code along, just check the starter file. You have just the index.html. So you have to create your JavaScript file. So let me just create a JavaScript folder for you inside this. So we have JavaScript.js, and we have script.js. So you have your JavaScript file right here. You have a JavaScript file. So every JavaScript you'll be writing, just pick it from the starter folder and you will be working with it. So when I am writing anything from the first video we have in the last class, you can see how I started picking it one after the other. So one after the other, so you can just follow through and start right. And I think this is how, going forward to the end of the training, I think this is how we are going to be doing it. I'll have like a starter folder and also finish folder so that you can always code along with me. Git add dot, there's git commit. Let's add git commit folder structure. So and let's just push. So we'll be pushing to origin main. And yes, so if we refresh our GitHub page once again, we'll see that we now have like the starter. So in the starter folder, you would have like the starter file, which is just the index.html. And when you get into the final, you have like a complete project. That is how we are going to have it. So you can always pull from there. You can always clone the code and always work with it. And if you have any question, if anything is confusing you, just reach out to me and we'll work it out together. So is there any question before we call it a day in today's class? And if there is no question, just know that you're going to have a task this today again. I think there's going to be a task for this week. I don't know yet, but if the admin asks for a task, you guys are actually going to be working with API. So I don't know the API you guys are going to be working with yet, but you guys will definitely be working with an API. So concerning the last task, what's the concern about the last task?
Good morning. Concerning the last tax, I was graded, right? And it was a bit higher than what I used to get. But the question was, I submitted earlier during before the end of the duration for the tax. So I was thinking, maybe is there anything I need to do to upgrade the tax score or something like that, sure? Because I've been seeing people doing upgrades, right? You tell them to fix this, fix that, and get an upgraded score for their submitted tax. Can you hear me?
For anyone I told to actually fix something, they actually had like a lower score, lesser than the cutoff mark. Like the cutoff was actually 80. So anyone I'm going to tell to actually going to do something to improve their score, they'll probably score below 80. That's what I have actually done. So I'm going to check out your score and see, then I'll let you know. I don't know
All
your,
right,
funny thing is, I don't know your score off on my head. So I just have to, when I get to my dashboard, I'm going to check it out. And I'm going to drop the link now. I'm going to drop it on our Discord channel so you guys can look at it and also code alongside. So thank you very much, guys. See you in the next class. Bye.